There are also remaining frontiers, things we don't know much about and things on which we would need people to work on more. First, we still need more work on institutional emergence. There's been quite a lot of things on change. There's been quite a number of things on deinstitutionalization, reinstitutionalization, but we don't have much on institutional emergence. With my colleagues Sigrid Kwak and Kerstin Thalin, we've done quite a bit of work on institutional emergence in the transnational context, because it's actually a nice way to look for that, because the transnational context is relatively young in terms of setting rules of the game, etc. So you can actually follow, for example, the IFRS, the emergence of the IFRS or the accounting standards, the international accounting standards, from the mid-70s to today. You can follow this and talk about institutional emergence in that case. Indeed, those are big institutions, accounting rules, which are now have now replaced in all European countries the former national accounting systems. They've displaced them completely, so we've had deinstitutionalization and reinstitutionalization, and we really have had the creation of a new set of rules out of nothing, in a sense, in the transnational context. So the transnational context is definitely an interesting place to look at, to look for institutional emergence, but we also need to look for the for institutional emergence of maybe of other types of institution, nationally based or locally based, etc. But when we do that, obviously we have to use more historical types of perspective and longitudinal types of perspective, which makes it more complex, and that's probably one of the reasons why we see less work on that. But we definitely need more work on this. We need more work also on the multi-level interplays. I mean, another way in which we can think of the complexity of institutions that I mentioned before is by recognizing that over the last 50 or 60 years or so, we've had an explosion of layers of institutional rules. So we have nationally the nation state, which is a big provider of institutions in general, of different kinds. We've always had more traditional groupings like religions, like families, or villages, or different more local groupings that are sources of norms, sources of behavioral patterns, etc., rules of the games, or obviously, or professional associations, etc., are all quite traditional. But increasingly, what we've seen emerge over the last 40 years is also regional, transnational, but regional sets of rules of the game with a lot of impact, like the European Union, obviously, on its own members, but even beyond its membership. And things that we've been working a lot, even beyond the European level, transnational systems that have emerged and are very much soft rules, but are still having a lot of impact. And obviously there are a lot of interplays and interactions between those different levels. And actors or set organizations, or us as individuals, or states even, they are kind of stuck in between all those systems of rules coming from different levels. And so looking at the ways in which this is being played out, especially in not your obvious country, that is not in France, Germany, England, the US, but in other parts of the world, is, I think, really an important frontier for the coming years, and where there's a lot of interesting work to be done. As I said before, looking at, and I'll take actually those two things together, looking at what I call the performativity of institutions, the way in which institutions are really shaping the world in which we live, shaping who we are also, okay? Shaping our preferences, shaping ourselves as maximizing individuals, for example. So the way in which the types of institutions that dominate contemporary capitalism are shaping us as individuals and in our one-to-one interactions. There's not enough work on that, and together with this, obviously, we need to have more attention being paid into things like power. For whom is this useful? For whom are those types of institutional performativity playing a role? Hegemony. So bringing more of some of the insights from Foucault, who is very compatible with an institutional perspective, I think, is a nice way to go.